Hi folks, this is Kellyanne with Church Windows. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I hear the noon tornado sirens going off, the testing here, so it is officially noon. We'll get started with, we're going to look today at attendance reports within the membership module. If it's your first time attending, you have what's called a Gotowebinar Tool Bar. And on the side of that, there's a little reddish arrow that you can click on, and that will minimize it, and so it's out of the way, not blocking what I'm showing you on screen. But then to open it back up, you just click that little orangish reddish arrow. I won't be unmuting people, but we do have Rachel in the room today, and as I'm showing you the reports on screen, if you have questions, you can open up that question panel, and she will be answering your questions, typing an answer in there. But if you want to hold off to the end of the class, your question might be answered as I work through the material, and at the end, I'm going to read the questions out loud and answer them for everybody. So what I'm going to show you today, let me get rid of this presentation on screen, is from one of our workbooks. You don't need the workbook to understand what I'm showing you, but let me go ahead and show you in case you own the workbooks or you're interested in purchasing them. If you go to Beginning and then Training Workbooks, I'm using Membership 202. Here we can see all the different books available, but I'm using Membership 202, last section of the book that goes over attendance reports 27 through 42. So we have 15 pages to get through, but luckily there's lots of screenshots. So 4 different reports I'm going to show you here in 20 minutes. So let's go ahead, get rid of this and get rid of that, and let's open up Church Windows and take a look at attendance reports. So I went ahead and clicked on membership to open up the membership module. And the first report we're going to look at is one that can help take attendance. So before you start entering attendance, this is a handy report to give to the teachers or instructors or put out at the pews if people just sign in or check themselves off for services. We can do what's called an attendance worksheet. To get to any of your attendance reports, you're going to click up here on attendance, on reports export at the top, and then under that the button that says attendance. And here are the 4 different reports we're going to look at. The first one, though, I recommend printing is an attendance worksheet. We'll click on that to bring up the first screen for the attendance worksheet. If you look across the top, all of the reports we'll look at today will have tabs going across the top. Some will see the same tabs again, like fonts and lines and sort. Some of those, I'll click on them so you can see them, but we're not going to go into great discussion each time because they're pretty much the same functions there. This opening screen, though, or opening tab is our options tab. The first thing we can do is choose our date range. Now you could try putting a whole year on one sheet, but it's probably not going to fit too well unless you do landscape. I'm going to just do 3 months so you can see what that looks like. So we'll just do January through March. Next you can choose how often they meet. So we can say this is daily, weekly, monthly, or we can do blanks and fill in the dates across the top ourselves. But this tells the program based on, the meeting frequency, what dates it's going to put across the top. And then you can tell it repeats on, depending on whether you choose daily, weekly, or monthly here, you have different options below. Daily obviously would be every day, but then weekly we can choose what day of the week. Monthly, we can say the first, second, third, fourth, or last, and what day. Or we can do blanks, which you choose how many columns you want, and then you put the dates in there. Let's go ahead with weekly. That's the most commonly used. If you'd like, you can also include members who have a certain role. So if you assign a role when you set up your groups in class, you can include that. Lower left, we can also include additional information, and those are things when you set up groups classes, you can add additional information you might want to track, like they brought their Bible or learned a verse, things like that. You can have blank lines at the end of the report if you'd like for writing in more people, students that attended, whatever you want to use those blank lines for. If you want the names to show the different category codes, whether they're a visitor or a member, or if you have other categories you've created, you can check here to have those little codes show by the name. And if you have a child or someone who is linked to different households, maybe a divorced parents where you've linked the child to both of those. You can choose to include the linked parent info when you add a parent field on the row, height, and column, or the fields tab, I'm sorry, wrong tab there. If we look over the right of the screen, here we can narrow down what we're seeing below because we have to choose an event or a group or class. If I uncheck groups classes, narrows down to just show me my events or vice versa. And then I can also use the fields here for division, department, and category to narrow down what groups and classes I see if I only want to see my committees and so on. And it just makes it easier for you to find what you need below if you have a lot of groups and classes. I'm just going to leave it here, and for today we're going to look at the Sunday worship and the first and second grade because I know I have information there. If you're following along in the book, then we turn to page 28 and next look at the People tab. The People tab is where you could add more criteria if you like. Maybe you just want people with an email address or a certain status. That's where we could add that. I'm not going to do any of that today because we only have 20 minutes for 4 reports. We also could choose just to see certain categories or inactive people we marked inactive. Looking at the next tab, bottom of page 28 if you're in the book, we can choose exactly what fields we'd like. Currently we're showing our name, birth date, and if they have a role, any role. We could add any of these fields that are on the record though. So if you wanted to add more things, maybe we just want address 1. We'll add that. Lower right, we can choose to include the year and their birth date if we're showing that. And we can uppercase that last name of the attendee. I like that. It makes it a little more bold. It makes it stand out, especially if you're including address and birth date and other information along with their name. Next tab, and that's on page 29. I moved ahead pretty quick. Let me mention a few more things before I move on to this tab. Forgot to say over here, this is our fields. You can choose from all the different fields on the left. The right side or visible is what's going to be on the report. The second column here, report field label, I can change what the header will be for my column headers. Maybe I don't want it to say current as of today. Maybe I just want it to say address. So in that second column, I can specifically type or edit the column header so it will show the wording I prefer for my columns. The column individuals, I can choose for this information, whichever column it is, do I want it to just have the attendees information, the attendee and parent, or just the parent's information? Maybe you want to add the email, but you want it to pull the parent's email. You can do that here on the fields on this attendance worksheet. And then the last item here, if we have this checked, the T for teacher, that would indicate if someone is designated a teacher, it would include a field designating that. Oops. All right. And then we have row, height, and width column. This is just where I can change the size of the height or the width of the columns on, on my page. Next tab, and this is page 30, I can choose how I would like my reports sorted. I can have it strictly alphabetical by last name. I can have it last name, family, and first name, where individuals in the family with the same last name would be grouped together. Individuals in the family with a different last name would be grouped with that name. Or you can have it go by the family name, and that would look at whoever in the family has a directory report order of 1. Then we can choose if we want to include teachers, and if we do, where do we want them sorted in the list. Next tab is fonts and lines. We can change the fonts for our header, column, our page header, our column headers, or our body text. Default is 9.75 for all those, and if you've changed them and you want to go back to what you had, you can click Reset to Default to go back to these defaults that the program comes with. If you would like your grid to be shaded, you can, maybe we'll do a little gray here. We can have it be shaded where every other line is a different color. You have white and then the gray. Next thing we have, let's look at page 31, is heading options. If you'd like to have headings above the different people you're going to check off, we can create, here we've created a custom class heading where we're tracking enrollment numbers, attendance, total visitors, and then our total, and if they brought their offering. But if I want to make a new one, I can click the plus sign here, put in my name for my new heading, and then I just click right in here and type what I want that heading to be, and then I can choose what spacing I want for that heading. Let's look though at the one we already have, custom. I can edit if I need just by clicking edit. That's to edit the name. If I want to edit anything below, I just click in the field and make my changes. Let's go ahead and hit print because I've already taken 10 minutes on one report, but this has so much to it. And we've seen some of the tabs already that are going to be repeated on the other reports. So, all right, so here we have a nice report. Maybe that gray is a little too dark, but having the different colors for the different rows here, I think it makes it a lot easier to see. But here we have the special headings we made, and then each person's name, address, birth date, what groups, classes they're in, enroll. We keep moving through. First we had, on the first page, that's our first and second grade Sunday school class. So that's why it's a short list. But if we move down, now we see it's moving on to Sunday AM worship. And we could probably get a few more months on here, and if you turned it legal size, you could get a lot more. All right, so that is our first report. Let's take a look now at, oops, and I am on page 33 now. I'm not keeping my head in the book. Summary by person. So if we go up to reports export and then attendance, then we can choose the summary by person. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention on that last report. Let me bring that up one more time. Just trying to get through this quickly so we can get it all done in 20 minutes. And I forgot to mention here one more thing. I didn't change my date range, so you can see it's going off the end of the page. Forgot to mention here, these are additional information. It shows a code for each of these, and here at the bottom we can see the legend telling us what each of these means. So for a Sunday school class where you're taking attendance and recording those things, obviously circling the different little letters here would indicate to the teacher they attended versus not circling anything, or you could X it off, would mean they didn't attend. But notice on the one for Sunday AM worship, we don't track that kind of thing like we do for groups classes, so it's just a blank area where you can check off if they attended or not. All right, now let's look at the attendance summary by person. This is pretty much what it says. It's a summary for each person. You're not going to get a detail of every event they attended, just a summary. Upper left, we can choose our date range. We can also change the year back by just clicking minus year or plus year. First, we can look at a summary. Notice if we're doing a summary, we don't have the option to say did not attend any selected, and you can't put a 0 here. I can put a 0, but it won't accept, well, no, see, I tried to put a 0, and it switched me back to detail. So if you want to do did not attend, you have to do detail. All right, so I'm going to choose again my Sunday AM worship and my first and second grade. On the people tab again here, we could add other criteria if we only wanted people with email or certain status or certain birthday. We could add that criteria here, choose our different categories, opt to see people who are inactive. Columns tab, we can move back and forth the columns we want to see. I'm just going to move everything over except for name. We don't need that twice. When we have name last first or name first last. I wanted to grab times excuse so you can see all of these. The next tab we have is the group and sort. Whoops. And this is all the way to page 36 if you're following along in the book. Here in our group and sort, we can group and sort by up to 3 things. We can use communion, last date attended, last event attended, name, times attended, times excused. After the first sort, if you want a second sort, say you have a lot of Smiths, it would first sort, by that name, and then whatever your second sort is, then within all those Smiths or anyone with the same name, then it would do that secondary sort. Don't usually see a second sort here, but you can sort by up to 3 fields. Fonts and lines, again, works the same way. We can choose the font size and such, and our grid color shading. So let me just go ahead and click print to bring this up. And it's a pretty basic self-explanatory report, I think. Let me make it a little bigger here. Attendance summary by person, so we get their name, how many times they attended in the date range I asked for, the last date they attended, the last event they did attend, if they had any times excused, and communion. So the only column I didn't put was the name first last. Seemed kind of redundant. Now with the detail, here I could say did not attend any selected. I think, let's see, I thought it changed. Oh, notice it does take away one thing. You don't have the option to sort. When I go with detail, the sort tab goes away, and if I choose did not attend any selected, because I only chose two things there, I only have two people who did not attend Sunday AM worship or first and second grade, and there's no last attended date because they did not attend. All right, let's look at the next report. The summary by event, group, class. So we'll go to reports, export, and then attendance, and I'm on page 38 now. And the summary by event, group, class. This is even more of a summary because you're not going to have people's names here. This is just summaries for the events, groups, or classes you select. Upper left, we can enter our date range. We can have the report show us every meeting date, a monthly figure, or an annual figure. And then you can choose the order you want the information, either by date or by the division, department, category. And here to the right, again, we can choose our group or class or our event. And I'm going to go with the same ones I've been using. Then we have the columns tab where we can move the different fields back and forth. I'm going to leave the defaults here of date, event class, members, visitors, total, and counted. We could also, though, put the dollar given and meeting average, meeting notes, the lesson studied, and attendance factors. The dollar given, that is from entering it on the attendance entry screen. There's a little box there where you can enter a dollar amount that does not carry over to donations. That does not, dollar given does not bring figures in from donations. That column, dollar given, is strictly based on if you wanted to put a dollar amount in the dollar total and the attendance screen, the entry screen. And then the last thing here is the fonts and lines, where we can choose, just like the others, different fonts and shading. Let's click print and take a look. So here it's just a nice little basic chart. We don't have a lot of attendance in, obviously, because it jumps from February until October, but this is play data for us. What you might notice here is with members, visitors, total, and counted, some of these figures are different. And that's not because the program is messed up or anything. Let me show you what that is. We go to attendance entry. You can, let me just pick something here. We'll put in today's date. You can upper left here, I can put in a person's present, and here's where I can put in that amount, dollar amount. The person's present, you could put a number there, and then if you check people off here, you could have different figures when we go back and look at total versus counted. Total adds together the people you check off, and that gives you total. Counted is that little box I just showed you where you can enter a number. So maybe your counters count, but then you also have people sign things, so you do, a check off people, but they type in a head count as well, and maybe they counted more people than actually signed in and that you got to mark as attended. So that's why you might have different numbers here if you choose to use both of those boxes, and the usher's got a different head count than the actual people who signed in. But you don't have to use both of those in attendance entry. You can use either or both, whichever works. All right, let's look at the last report. We're almost at our time, but we might go over a little. We had 15 pages to do in 20 minutes. All right, so the last thing I want to show you is the attendance report. Like I said, this is kind of a whirlwind tour. Attendance report is the most information, I think, for any of the attendance reports because it's going to give you specific dates, every date that you asked for. So here we see we can put in a date range. I'm just going to leave it the whole year. Looks very similar to our first attendance worksheet. You can do the date range, choose a certain group, include people with a certain role, include people who didn't attend, indicate if there's communion, include the little family categories by the names for members, visitors, or any other categories you may have made. If you have children or people who are linked to different households or parents, you can include all the different linked parents' information. And for groups and classes, you can show the details and individual totals and date totals as well. All right, and over to the right, it's the same. We can choose our group or class or our event. I'm going to show you one of each. And if we move to the People tab, that is on, oops, I think somehow we jumped past that. Oh, and the book, we're not showing it just because it's the same. It tells you to take a look at the previous reports. So here on the People tab, we could put criteria if we needed, choose our categories, include inactive people. On the Fields tab, we can move whatever fields we'd like over to be visible. I'm just going to leave name. Row height and width, same thing here. We could change the sizing of our rows and columns. Here, this is the same sort we saw before. We can choose strictly alphabetical or by the last name when you have mixed names in a family. And we can choose to include teachers. And we can change our fonts and lines. Excuse me. Let's hit print and see what it looks like. So pretty small chart for our first grade, first and second. We only have 3 people there. But we can see a nice little check mark here when they did attend. Nothing if they didn't attend, but we see an E for excuse for Nate Knox here on the 21st. And then it shows the little letter for each of the things we indicated they did do, and then we have a legend below, and then totals at the bottom, and then totals as well for our additional information that we're tracking. All right. And then if you look, the Sunday AM worship, here, because we don't track all that additional information, we just have a check if they attended. And if they took communion, you have this little, looks like a little diamond kind of. And if they did not attend, it's just blank. And if we mark them excused, then we'd have show an E here as well. There we go. So that is very complete report of exactly who attended. All right. I'm sorry, we went over by 2 minutes. But that, again, a whirlwind tour of the different attendance worksheets, the pre-formatted attendance reports. Are there any questions on those? If you want to go ahead and type your questions in the question panel, then I'll just read them out loud for everybody and answer them for everyone. While I'm waiting real quick, I'll show you again real quick where if you came in late, and I'd already showed where I was getting the material from, on our website under beginning, there are links to all of the training workbooks. You can buy them where you download and print them, or you can have us print and bind them and send them to you. But this came from Membership 202, the very end of the book, Attendance Reports. And this is being recorded, so once Robert cleans it up and standardizes it, this will be added to our website, so you can view it another time if you like. I'm not seeing any questions come in, so one more thing I'll show you. If you have never done any, if this is your first webinar, maybe somebody else signed you up at the church, if you look under beginning and then click on free online webinars, here's where you can find the schedule of all the webinars. I think November just went up this week. So all kinds of things there. All right. Somebody said, too new to have questions, but enjoyed your presentation. Well, thank you. That's good to hear. Somebody said, is the last attendance report you showed the best one to use to flag someone who has attended worship regularly in the past but haven't attended recently? I mean, that'd be a good way to take a look, sure. If we look at that report again, attendance report, we're showing those who did not attend. So if we go, worship's probably the best one to look at. I mean, we could also, if you want to call in, we could do a report on that as well. I mean, looking here, I can clearly see, Cody Ellison has, blanks here, but you could kind of scan it and I could see, oh, Brea came once, but then lately she hasn't come, or Chloe King down at the bottom here, looks like she was coming and hasn't come the past 2 services. So, I mean, at a glance, this might be a good report to see, who was coming and then suddenly dropped off. You could see, just looking at the blanks. But give us a call. We might, we could probably do a report as well, where you could get names and not have to have that report. Rachel says she likes the attendance report for that. So really depends on what you need. So if I didn't understand that question, definitely give us a call and we can help you find what you do need. All right, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. But take a look at some of the others and sign up for as many as you like. And again, this will be up on our website hopefully by the end of the week, once Robert cleans it up and gets it all pretty. All right, thanks again for attending and happy Halloween. If you've got little ones and you're going out trick-or-treating, have fun. We got rain here. Hopefully it stops, but at least it's not cold. It's almost 60 here today. So, all right. Thanks, guys. See ya.